What's up guys, I'm Andy from 1A Auto. In this video I'm going to show you how to replace the front strut spring assembly on this 2010 Toyota Rav4. If you need these parts or other parts for your vehicle, click the link in the description and head over to 1aauto.com. Alright, I raised and supported the vehicle. I'm going to remove the wheel. I'm using a 21mm socket and an air gun. If you don't have an air gun, you can use a breaker bar. Just crack the lug nuts free while the vehicle is still on the ground. Alright. Now I want to take the tire off. This one's stuck on there pretty good, so I'm going to put one lug nut on and just hit it on the back side of the tire with a hammer. Break it free. Reason you leave the lug nut so the tire doesn't go flying. Take the lug nut off and pull the tire off. I'm just going to take a little rust penetrant, spray this sway bar link nut. It's a little bit rusty, so let that soak for a little bit. So there's a couple ways you can take this nut off. One, you could take a 7/32 hex key, or a 5.5 is pretty close as well. And then a 17mm wrench and try to loosen it up that way, but I find it takes forever if you do that. So what I'm gonna do is take some walking pliers, get behind here on the back side. This is gonna prevent the stud from spinning. Just lock those in place. Take a 17mm socket and an air gun and just take it off. Generally, if you just bump it a couple times like that, it'll loosen up, but I gotta readjust the locking pliers, make them a little tighter. Let's give this a try. There we go, got it off. All right, and I can slide this out, and then you can see how this was on here. Now, if you weren't replacing the sway bar link, then you probably don't want to do it this way. You probably want to do it with taking the wrench and the hex key. It just takes a lot longer. Take the locking pliers off. Now I'm going to take a 14mm socket and a ratchet. Take this bolt out right here. All right, that slides this bracket out. There, and that also takes this bracket out for the brake hose. Just slide this out of the way. Then there's a little wire retainer right here. Just use a trim tool. We actually sell these trim tools at 1aauto.com. Get underneath the retainer and slide it out. Now I want to remove these two nuts right here and here. I'm going to use a 22mm wrench to hold the bolt on the back side, and then a 22mm socket and an air gun. Remove the nut. Take that one out. And same with the bottom one. I'm just going to take a punch and a hammer and just punch out these bolts. Just be careful when you punch those out. This is going to move forward, so you don't want it to hit you in the chest or anything. There we go. So that will separate like that. Be careful, you don't want the axle to pull out or anything. So it should be good like that. From up top under the hood, the first thing I want to do is take the difficult nuts off up here. These go to the strut mount. Never take the nut off in the middle. There should be a nut underneath this cover, so you don't ever want to take that one off, but we'll take these outside ones off. I'm going to use a 14mm socket and a ratchet. All right, get that one off. And this one. This last one, I'm going to loosen it up first. And you can see it's dangling, everything's loose. Now I'm gonna switch to my electric ratchet with the same 14mm socket. And I'm gonna reach around and grab underneath and support the strut while I'm doing this. And then just loosen up that nut up top. Take that nut off. Then I can come underneath here, grab the strut, pull the whole strut out. Here's the old part. Here's the new spring and strut assembly from 1aauto.com. As you can see, the brackets are in the same positions. The spring is the same height. Comes with the strut mount already attached and the boots. Get yours at 1aauto.com and you'll be ready to rock and roll. The new strut assembly comes with new nuts, so take those nuts off. And there's a sticker on here, it just is a warning basically saying to not remove this nut because that would be dangerous. You never want to remove that nut if it's not in an actual holding tool, the spring compressor tool. So just remove that and then we can position this. Just try to line it up top. This would help if you have a friend to get these nuts started while you hold it underneath. All right, once you get one or two on, then you can let the strut assembly hang, and then you can get the last one in. Pretty easy. Okay, so I have these all started. I'm not gonna tighten these down yet. I wanna do those last. It's easier to put the bottom bolts in first because you may have to move this around a little bit. Once those are in there and torqued, then you can lower the weight of the vehicle on the strut mount and then tighten these down. Now we're gonna align the knuckle up with the strut. You may have to use a floor jack or something to raise up underneath the control arm. And grab one of the bolts. Once you get that started, it's a little easier. And we can get the bottom one in. Just push on the knuckle a little bit. You can use a hammer too. Just take a hammer, a dead blow, and just give it a tap. Put the nuts back on. Now I'm just gonna snug these up with the air gun. I'm gonna use a 22mm socket and a 22mm wrench. Just get these close, and then we can use the torque wrench and torque them. Now we're going to use the same 22mm wrench, 22mm socket, and a torque wrench to 177 foot-pounds. There we go. Now I'm going to take this bracket. I want to get this bracket lined up. Just slip it into the strut, just like that. That goes there, and then this bracket kind of slides over it a little bit, just like that. Take this bolt, put the bolt back in, and that's started. Then I'm going to take a 14mm socket and a ratchet, tighten that up, just make sure it's snug. That's good. Put that retainer and just slide that back in position. Now align the link up into the bracket on the strut. Put the nut on. So I did change the link while I was in here, but if I was reusing the link, I would need a 17mm wrench and then a 5.5mm hex key. But because I changed it, I need an 18mm ratchet wrench and a 6mm hex key on a ratchet. So then I'm gonna just tighten this up. And snug that up real tight. Then I'm gonna use an 18mm socket and a torque wrench and torque this to 55 foot-pounds. Now install the tire. Take the lug nuts, install the lug nuts. Now I lowered the vehicle down to the ground so that the tire's just touching the ground. And I'm gonna torque these with a 21mm socket and a torque wrench to 76 foot-pounds. And I'm gonna do this in a star pattern. The reason you do it in the star pattern is so that the wheel gets tightened down evenly. And then I always like to go around again just to double check. And you're good to go. I am just gonna lower the vehicle just so that the top part of the strut mount is through, so that's good. Now I'm just gonna tighten these bolts down. Just wanna make sure the strut mount's not making any unnecessary contact. And that seems pretty good. Now I'm gonna use a 15mm socket and a ratchet, tighten these up. If there's any sand in there, just try to wipe that sand away. Then I'm gonna use that same 15mm socket and torque these with a torque wrench to 37 foot-pounds. And this back one's really hard to get to, but I guess I can still do it. Yeah, it's that easy. Whenever you do a job like the one we did today, you're gonna wanna go to a local shop and have your alignment adjusted, because you don't wanna end up with premature tire wear. Whenever you change components or even remove them and reinstall them, things change, and you wanna make sure everything is lined up so you're good to go.
Thanks for watching. Visit 1AAuto.com for quality auto parts shipped to your door, the place for DIY auto repair. And if you enjoyed this video, please click the subscribe button.